Come on, Richard, let's go. I can tell you one thing, it feels a lot better in here than
Yes,
it
it
does outside.
does.
Wet. I know why you didn't want to get wet now.
We will continue our post-race press conferences here at Kansas Speedway following the Hollywood Casino 400. We now welcome our race winner, Kevin Harvick, driver of the number 29 Budweiser Chevrolet.
Yeah, should.
Sorry.
That's all right. You can do what you want to do today.
Hey,
Kevin, you called it after qualifying.
Oh,
You
I
said
didn't
your
call
stats
that.
were going to speak for themselves.
I
and you
said
were
I
gonna
hope
be
the
back in
stats
here
speak for
following the
themselves.
race.
Don't start that. Don't start that. No,
Okay, I called it.
yeah.
I said that your stats were going to speak for themselves and you'd be back in here. First of all, congratulations on your win today. Your 22nd victory in 460 NASCAR Sprint Cup Series races, obviously winning from the pole. And of your 6 career poles, you have now won 3 of the corresponding races, including each of the last 2. Your 3rd victory of 2013, your 1st victory here at Kansas. Talk a little bit about your win out there today.
Yeah, we definitely don't need to say that we said that because we don't want the
I said that.
we don't
I'll
want the
take-
karma
I'll
police to
take
come get
credit
us.
for it.
I talk about the karma police a lot. And we don't want bad karma to overwhelm us at any point. But was an interesting weekend to say the least. Obviously, everybody was battling the tires and the track, and I think that it was like driving on a razor blade. So I told them yesterday, I said, we just got to try to get some kind of consistency because that was the thing that for me stuck out the most was, our lap times, one would be good, one would be bad, one would be good, and that's always our strong point when you have that nice curve of lap times. So we just talked about a lot of adjustments that we wanted to make and kind of eliminated a few things here and there overnight. And it was like driving 2 different cars. Out front there was not even close, and in traffic you were just another one of the cars and had a lot of trouble, and so that made the restarts really important. Everybody would get really aggressive on the restarts and trying to make up spots because that was the place that you had to do it. So to sit on the pole and win the race is obviously a great weekend, and controlling our own destiny by doing that. Putting ourselves closer to where we need to be with a championship race. So we'll just keep having fun and keep doing what we're doing.
Also joining Kevin is crew chief Gil Martin, climbing to 3rd in points, only 25 behind Matt Kenseth. Gil, talk a little bit about your strategy and moving ahead with 4 races down in the chase, looking towards Homestead.
I mean, obviously, the only strategy you can have is do what we did today. It's very hard to do. But coming into this weekend, we knew we had a test day. We brought a brand new car, and we knew we had a lot of things to put to bed on Thursday and thought we had a pretty good handle on it, but the track completely changed on Saturday, so we had to undo a lot of that stuff. And then in the race today, like Kevin said, it was 2 completely different race cars. Out front, we made adjustments overnight, hoping that we would stay out front most of the day. And then when we got back in traffic, some of those adjustments were not very good for us, and so we had to start undoing those as much as we could during the race. And luckily, the way the cautions worked out and the way that we were able to get through traffic, it worked out good today.
Also joining us, owner Richard Childress. Richard, obviously the 3rd victory of 2013. Just talk a little bit about your season thus far and being this far ahead in the chase and looking ahead as well.
I think like Gil said, we just got to keep doing what we did today to be a contender. I don't think top 10s will win a championship, when you're racing Jimmy Johnson and the group of guys that's up there. And we've been there before, and hopefully this time we can pull it off. Today was Kevin did a great job. It's one of them deals you had to position yourself when you had that last pit stop to be out front or close to the front to have a good day. And the car was fast all week from the time we got here.
We'll take questions for all 3. Please raise your hand. We'll get a wireless mic to you. We'll start in the back with Brad, then we'll come back up front to Lewis.
Come on, Bob, pay attention.
I'm going to ask the same thing to you, Kevin, as I did Jeff Gordon earlier. How did you like the right front tire used in today's race, and would you like to see it ran at more racetracks next season where a lot of issues with that occurred?
Yeah, I don't think there were any issues with the tire. I think the issue is the pavement and the things they keep repaving these racetracks with that puts Goodyear in a box. And it's not Goodyear's fault. They have to make a tire that's not going to blow out. So when you're running an average of 187 or 185, whatever the average speed is, they have to make the tire durable. And, the outside of the tire would be 10 degrees hotter than the inside of the tire because, they've done a good job of making the inside of that tire durable. But, they continuously put the tire company and the competitors in a box that we're in with the type of asphalt that they keep putting on track. So I think Goodyear's done a fine job with the tire, and when you have the cards that they're dealt.
Okay, we'll take our next question from Lewis, then go back to Bob, then Jim.
Lewis Frank from Speed Week. Kevin, you won the pole, you won the race. I think you led the most laps. Did you have any issues this weekend aside from a second car?
We had a lot of issues. Honestly, we thought we did, but as you talk to everybody, so did everybody else. And well, I think for us, it's the same kind of thing we went through last week. Everybody was fighting the same issue in the center of the corner at Dover. After the first session, I was really frustrated. They were frustrated. And we just said, we're not going to work on that problem anymore because it exists for the whole field. Let's make the other two parts of the corner, better. And this weekend, we kind of did the same thing. We said we knew it was going to drive like crap in traffic. We knew that it was going to be edgy to drive. So let's just try to do the best we can and make it as good as possible. And it's not going to feel good. You just have to accept the fact that the car is not going to drive like a slot car. It's not going to feel good. It's not going to be comfortable. And so that's kind of how we approached the weekend. After the first practice, it was good, and the second practice, it wasn't. Qualifying trim, we had 2 really good runs and 2 really bad runs. So we went through what we thought was the best set of tires and the best circumstances to put on the car, and we gambled as to what the conditions were going to be, and everything worked out. So it was an interesting weekend.
Okay, we'll go to Bob, then Jim.
Bob Parker, Sporting News. For Kevin and Gil, I know you guys never considered yourselves out of this thing, but do you consider yourselves more in this thing now after the victory, plus maybe the issues that some of the others had?
Go ahead.
Well, there's no way you can ever consider yourself out of it. The first race of the year at Daytona, I think we came out of there 43rd. And in 10 weeks, we were back up to around 10th or 11th. So we made up a lot of ground, not only just by running well, other guys had problems too. And with 6 races to go, there's so many things can happen. You've still got Talladega and Martinsville that everybody considers to be tracks that shake everything up. But today we were at what everybody considers to be a non-eventful mile and a half, and you saw what happened today. So there's a lot of things that can happen in the next few races, and we're just going to have to capitalize on them. But by no means do I think we're out of it.
Okay, next question we'll take from Jim.
Jim Mutter, Charlotte Observer, for Kevin and for Gil. Was your win at the 600 kind of foreshadowing a little bit? You guys are the only ones other than Gibbs drivers to win at 1.5 mile tracks, and a lot of people made a big point about how many there were in the chase. So was that kind of an indicator that maybe at that time that you might have something more along the lines of what they have towards the end of the year?
For me, I think today is more positive for us than any other race we've been to all year, just for the fact that we were at a mile and a half racetrack that had a lot of circumstances and being comfortable, more comfortable than everybody else, I guess you could say, driving the car and having the speed that it had, I think shows the gains that we've been able to make since that race. So, I think the confidence in the team and the car and the mile and a half stuff is good. And the bottom line is you can have fast cars, but it's going to come down just like it did at the 600. You're going to have the right strategy to go along with everything as the day unfolds.
That's just it. It is extremely hard to win on these mile and a half tracks because you've got to be looking at gas mileage. You've got to be looking at where you're going to be at the end of the race. Today, with about 100 laps to go, I told him we were thinking about this like a road course because you had to just start backing it up, knowing when could you make it. Because luckily, a couple of times there where we had 10-lap tires on, we were up in the front. Most of the time, you would feel like you were sitting duck. But I knew today from practice that all you had to do is go out on stickers, come back into the garage, let them sit a minute and go out, and they had a lot of speed, and that same characteristics was there today. So we found ourselves in that situation a couple of times. But when we go to Charlotte or we go to Texas, there's going to be a completely different set of circumstances. So the things you did here today are not going to work there, so you just got to be open and ready for whatever change happens.
Does it say anything that there's only a small group of people who've done well on the 1.? Does it say anything that there's just a small group that have done really well on 1.5s this year?
Who can you tell us? I don't pay
No,
attention.
it's
Who's
either
won on
you-
the mile and a half tracks?
Only Gibbs drivers and you guys.
Oh, okay.
That's it.
I mean, I didn't know that either, but I mean, there's too many good cars out there. I mean, you're not going to stop the 48 from winning at these places, and it's not going to say that they're behind and we're all so far ahead. It's just circumstances happen. And the thing of it is, I think in the past where maybe some of the different guys dominated, everybody else just hadn't caught up to them. Well, now you've got a lot of cars that are running equally as fast. So it's coming down now to just strategies and how things work out, and that's making a huge difference. And just how you set up for the race. And the biggest thing is when you go into one of these things, whatever game plan you have, you got to be ready to change it because it's probably not going to be the right one.
Constantly evolving.
Moving target.
We'll go to the press box for a question.
Lee Spencer, Fox Sports. Kevin, you said it was like driving 10 different cars there. I mean, I guess that's more of a problem for Gil because he has to figure out how to calm down Sybil. But, you know, how did you guys just kind of attack that with, you know, the changes? And also, did Kurt doing the tire test help you guys at all, give you data that you could use for this, even though the temperatures dropped, you know, 30 to 40 degrees today?
I didn't even know Kurt did the tire test, but obviously he's everybody's an asset to what we do, whether it's a 31, 27, 78. You know, you try to build on everything that you do, but it was 2 different cars, not 10, 2. We had one that was really fast out front, and we had one that was sometimes really tight, sometimes really loose in traffic. So, the first time we got in heavy traffic, we adjusted on the car, and as we got out front, the car was freer, and then the second lane started to open up, and that really, when I was behind the 2, I had to try something different. That really allowed us to find another groove that we really didn't have to use anymore. But that second groove for us was really fast and really good. But in the middle of the pack, it was everything. It was loose, mostly tight, but depending on how close you would get to the car in front of you and where you were at in the corner. So you had to try to manipulate the car to make it through the corner, and they did a good job of freeing the car up and still being able to drive it when it was out front.
Do we have another question from the press box? Okay, we're going to fix your mic and we'll come back to the press box. Go ahead with your question, Bob, in the back.
He's got his glasses back on.
Bob Parker, Sporting News. Kevin, what's the answer to the fact that you have had 2 very different cars? I mean, is when you come back here next April or whenever the next race is, will it be the same, or is there anything that can be done?
Well, I think that obviously they need to work on the tire, but the bottom line is you just have to wait for the racetrack to age. That's the box you're in, and I don't know how to fix that. I mean, it's a tough box to be in. But I haven't watched the race or seen anything, but there sure were a lot of cautions. That seems to be what everybody wants, or wrecks and cautions. So
Except the owners.
yeah. You can accept the owners.
All right, we'll go to Stan, then Randy.
Stan Creekmore with RPM tonight. Kevin and Gil as well, if you will. This is a mile and a half. Next week we're going to a mile and a half. But the challenges here at Kansas Speedway seemed far greater. Is it as they appeared? And how did you make the changes, Gil, for when he was behind some? Because he didn't look like he was ever hindered in any way when he was up front on a restart. The car just seemed to be like a rocket ship.
Well, the biggest thing that you got to do when you know that you're going to be in traffic, you have to free it up. You don't have a choice because it's going to be so tight. But then as you start working your way back to the front, even though you know you don't need to, you've got to start tightening it back up at the same time. So it's kind of a gradual process that if you know that you're in 20th, you know it's going to be extremely tight. If you're in 10th, it's going to be another level of tight. And then when you get to about fourth, it's a different slipstream in the front, and the cars actually start getting freer. So you've got to start preparing for that, and little by little, it's hard to do too when you're just putting on 2 tires or gas only. So we did gas only. We made an adjustment at the same time when we did that, but we're continuously making tire pressure adjustments. And today that was a struggle for everybody a little bit too, because the tire being such an unknown, we weren't 100% sure how the tire was going to react. I mean, we've got data on it that we use, but a lot of times that data doesn't exactly do what it says it's going to. So you have to do what you've done in the past and what we consider sometimes old school racing, and just do with the tire pressure what we know needs to be done, and that's kind of what we did today.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the tire temps and the wear sheets, you'd think the tire was going to blow out, and you'd think you were doing everything backwards. But I think that's the biggest thing, is I don't think everybody really understands exactly what we need to do with this tire. It's no different than changing a spring rule or changing something else. I think as everybody goes home and goes through it and thinks about it and says, we need to try this, this, and this, it's no different. I mean, everybody, if you gave them a week or two, these guys would go home and sit with the engineers and go through all the data and the notes and say, we need to do this different next time. So it's no different than that, but it's just a different way. I mean, when you look at it, you're like, this isn't right, but it's just different. So you got to approach it different.
So will Charlotte be an easier win next week than trying to dominate here like you did?
Heck, I don't know. It's like he said, every week's a different challenge. You just never know what you're going to be, you don't know what you're going to deal with. It's like today, we went from 86, 87 degrees to 60 and 55, whatever the temperature is out here today. And it totally changed the whole balance of the car. So you don't know what the weather's going to be. You don't know what the tire's going to be. You don't know. I mean, there might be a jump going into turn 1. Who knows?
Okay, we'll take a question from Randy, then we'll go upstairs and come back down to Lewis.
Yeah, Randy Kovitz, Kansas City Star. This is for Richard, but Kevin and Gil can chime in. Kevin is leaving for a new team next year. Kurt Busch leaving for a new team next year. How are these guys able to, they finished 1-2 today and they're in the chase? And just, can you talk about how they have kept their focus and their attention on your team and not peeking ahead?
We just talked about it, and we're committed to try to win the championship. We owe it to our sponsors and our fans to give them 100%, and that's what we agreed to do, and that's what we're going to do till Homestead, no matter what happens between now and then. And that's our goal, is to go after the championship, and what a great way to go out.
Well, there's also, how many people you got? 550?
Yeah, around 500 or so.
Those guys are going to work on the cars, whether they're running first or last. And that's really, whether I agree with him or he agrees with me, doesn't really matter. Those guys that are down there in the shop and digging on the cars, those are the ones that you look at and you say, you owe it to them to go out and do what you have to do. So it's business, but it's also, you have a sense of pride, and your ego just has a hard time taking the fact that you did it like everybody else, and I think that's what we talked about. You don't want to do it like everybody else. You want to go out with a sense of success, and everything's gone well.
Okay, we'll go to the press box for your question.
Brent James from ESPN.com for Kevin. You made a comment to the effect during the race that you'd gotten screwed by smoke and duct tape. I was wondering how frustrating it was getting to deal with all those cautions and the restarts, especially at least one of them was pretty strange with the grass catching on fire beyond the track.
I didn't even really know what to say on the second one. I knew Gil was in full meltdown mode on the smoke because the first caution was for a piece of tape, and we just started the green flag pit cycles, and sometimes it runs through the cycle, and then they throw the caution to pick up the debris to not really change the outcome of the race. But today it was a caution, and for us it fortunately worked out. And then we're leading the race, and I think we were leading.
Yeah, we were leading, and we were trying to stretch it about 20 more laps, and we did not need a caution.
And then there's smoke what was on fire? Mulch?
Mulch.
Duct tape and mulch were our best friends today. So yeah, it's frustrating. Obviously, the first thing you think of is, man, I got screwed up there, or somebody's screwing us, and then they're just calling the race, and us sitting in the car, it's frustrating. So sitting on the pit box or sitting watching the race. It's just, you know, you always think everybody's out to get you, but luckily today it all worked out.
All right, we'll take one up front from Lewis, our final question.
Kevin and Gil, you've been around a while. I'm not making an old age thing about this.
He's
but
a
you-
lot older than I am.
Yeah.
But
No,
you-
that's why I've got on a coat and a sweatshirt. Cold weather.
But you were around when they transitioned from bias ply to radials. Can you compare the change, you know, the difference now, how much you're going through, and does more information help you, or does that hurt you to have more information?
I tell you, it's funny you say that. I was talking to Dale Inman yesterday. We were watching the cars go through inspection, and I just looked at him and I said, what has this come to? And he was like, if I had to keep up with all this way back, he said, I don't know what I would have done. And there's just so much information now that it's overpowering. And that's the thing that we have to wade through every week, because you can get focused on one little piece of information because you can study it all week long, and you have to break it up into so many different people doing so many jobs that they can analyze it and they can come to you with the pertinent stuff in there. But the hardest thing about it is 3 guys can look at the same piece of information and have a different conclusion. So you really have to know the people that are looking at the stuff to make sure that they don't have an agenda to make things work. So you have to weed through so much stuff now, and that's what we went through this week. We went through all of our test stuff from Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, and you sit at the hotel and you drink whatever, Budweiser, and you eat pizza, and you do it till your stomach is killing you, because you've got so much that you have to go through to come in on Sunday morning. You apply it to the car, and you hope that it works, and that's what you got to do.
So can you put in perspective for non-technical people, can you compare this to the transition from bias, how much difficulty?
Oh, yeah, most definitely, because when that transition took place, everybody was trying to do everything they could with adding camber to the tire, because we lost the ability to have stagger. So then everybody was trying to do camber, and Harry Gant obviously won all those races because they were one of the first ones to get on that. And Richard can speak more about that with Dale, but I think that was one of the toughest things, that the cars, you couldn't hang the cars out when the radials first came out like you could with the bias plies. And so there was a tremendous learning curve, and that's what we're going to go through with this tire, because you're going to get in a situation where you're running on both compounds if you don't have your geometry right or whatever you've got going on in the car, and it's going to make the cars handle just differently.
All right. Kevin, Richard, Gil, congratulations again on your win, and best of luck the rest of the chase.
Thank you.
How do you win a race without Keelan rule?
I'm sorry?
How do you win a race without Keelan rule?
Yeah, that's right. First one without him.